Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of Bee Rafting Podcasts. I'm your host, Stephen Aceto, and I'm happy to have you here. Hope you're having a great week so far. If you're wondering what bee rafting is, it's the art of saving bees using bee rafts. And if you're wondering what bee rafts are, they're decorative pieces of foam that you can put in your bird baths, your ponds, your fountains, any backyard water source, and they save bees by giving them a safe platform they can land on and they can drink water and they don't drown. True story. Now, I'm not going to just sit here talking about bee rafts. I wanted to do a little history on bees and how they've been portrayed in our culture and different cultures around the world for, since there's been communication amongst different cultures and within their cultures. So, let's get into it. Bees, they're pretty important. They're very important, actually. And when I talk to some people about bees, they're just like, who cares? And it's not a really exciting topic for a lot of people. So I'm going to try and make this a little more fun with some audio clips. And since this is an audio show, we'll see how it goes. And I definitely would love your feedback. So when you hear this, whichever station you're listening to it from, feel free to chime in and let me know what you think. Any and all comments are welcome as long as they're not too hardcore, as long as they're not too insulting. Please, no insulting. All right, so let's get into it. Now, bees have been featured in myth and folklore around the world, as we all know. Honey and beeswax are pretty important resources for humans since at least the Mesolithic period. And for all of us that don't know what Mesolithic is, it's just another way of saying the middle of the Stone Age. So as a result, humans' relationship with bees, in particular honeybees, has ranged from encounters with wild bees, both prehistorically and in the present day, to keeping them agriculturally, which, a lot of our main agricultures depend on bees. Bees themselves are often characterized as mythically imbued creatures, and their honey has been viewed as a divine gift. Which, face it, out of all the insect vomits we've tried so far, honey is pretty sweet. And unfortunately, that's another reason why humans are so damn stupid. We have this really cool insect that basically just goes around creating our food and gives the entire planet free honey, and in return, we go ahead and kill them off. So, way to go, humans. Well, anyway, that said, let's start off with the bees by going to the motherland. In African mythology, the Kalahari Desert's sand people, and no, not sand people. I know I was excited when I first saw it, and then I realized it wasn't sand people from Star Wars. That's just another term for Bushmen. So, anyway. Well, they tell of a bee that carried a mantis across a river. The exhausted bee left the mantis on a floating flower, but planted a seed in the mantis's body before it died. And that seed grew to become the first human, which is kind of interesting. In Egyptian mythology, bees grew from the tears of the sun god Ra when they landed on the desert sand, which I like that one. That's pretty cool. I'm a visual person, and just seeing something like that would be like, whoa, that's pretty sweet. So anyway, the Baganda people of Uganda tell the legend of Kintu, the first man on earth. Now, Kintu lived alone, save for his cow. And no, it's not
Don't have a cow, man.
It was an actual cow. So one day, he asked permission from Gulu, spelled Ggulu, Gulu, who lived in heaven, to marry his daughter Nambi. Gulu set Kintu on a trial of 5 tests to pass before he would agree. For his final test, Kintu was told to pick Gulu's own cow out from a group of cattle. Nambi aided Kintu in his final test by transforming herself into a bee and whispering into his ear to choose the one whose horn she landed upon. That was kind of cool. So then we move over to American mythology. In American mythology, in Mayan mythology, which is mainly Central America, Ab Muzenkab was one of the Maya gods of bees and honey, one of the Maya hero twins. Balenque is also associated with bees and beekeeping under the name or aspect of Mokchi. Habnil, the Bakab, who represents the east, may be associated with bees and beehives as well. In Asian mythology, according to Hittite mythology, which, if you're not familiar with that era, the Hittites was an empire centered in what is now Turkey from 1600 to 1180 BC. While the god of agriculture, Talipinu, went on a rampage and refused to allow anything to grow. Animals would not produce offspring. And then the goddess Hanahana sent forth a bee to bring him back. The bee found Talipinu, stung him, and smeared bee wax on him. so instead of accomplishing the mission, the god grew even angrier, and it was not until the goddess Kamrusepa, or a mortal priest, depending on the reference. But Kamrusepa used a ritual to send his anger to the underworld, and then Talipunu was calmed down. So everybody lived happily ever after. And in Hindu mythology, Brahmari was summoned by the gods to kill the demon. To kill Arunasura, she stung him numerous times with the help of innumerable black bees that came out of her body. Now, can you imagine seeing something like that?
Yeah, right.
Someone's just standing there and they got a bunch of black bees coming out of them to come attack you? I don't think so, pal. So, the gods were finally able to take control of the heavens and the celestial worlds again. And in addition, the Hindu love of God, Kamadeva's bowstring, is made of sugarcane covered in bees. So that's some of the history and culture in Asia. Now let's go on to Europe. And Greek mythology. And I love Greek mythology. They have so many gods, and it's really cool. But they have several gods that are associated with bees. Aristaeus is the god of beekeeping. So after inadvertently causing the death of Eurydice, who stepped on a snake while trying to run from him, her nymph sisters punished him by killing every one of his bees. And then, witnessing the empty hives where his bees had dwelt, Aristaeus is the god of beekeeping. After inadvertently causing the death of Eurydice, who stepped upon a snake while fleeing him, her nymph sisters punished him by killing every one of his bees. Witnessing the empty hives where his bees had dwelt, Aristaeus wept and consulted Proteus, who advised him to give honor in memory of Eurydice by sacrificing 4 bulls and 4 cows. Upon doing so, he let them rot, and from their corpses rose bees to fill his empty hives. How sweet is that? There's nothing like dead cow bees, to fulfill someone's heart. That's just great. So anyway, prophecy in ancient Greece seems to have been associated with bees. The Homeric hymn, and for those of you who aren't familiar with Homer, he wrote the Odyssey. So he also wrote a Homeric hymn to Hermes and acknowledges that Apollo's gift of prophecy first came to him from 3 bee maidens, usually but doubtfully identified with the Thri, a trinity of pre-Hellenic Asian bee goddesses. In addition, the Oracle of Delphi is referred to as the Delphian bee by Pindar. And if you're wondering who Pindar was, well, he was an ancient poet from Thebes. So, then we move on to Mycenaean Greek and Minoan myth. The bee was an emblem of Potnia, also referred to as the pure mother bee. Her priestesses received the name of Melissa, bee, according to the Neoplatonic philosopher Porphyry. Her priestesses received the name of Melissa, bee, according to the Neoplatonic philosopher Porphyry. The priestesses of Demeter were also called Melissae, and Melissa was the name of Artemis. Melisius was the god of honey and bees, whose daughters Ida and Adrastea fed the infant Zeus with milk and honey when his mother hid him from Cronus. In European folklore and custom, telling the bees of important events in the family, particularly births and deaths, was vital to keep the bees content and happy in their hive. And there you have it. Now we're all caught up somewhat. But as you know, I hope you know, bees are such a vital role as they produce so many of our crops. They produce 1 in 3 bites of food we eat. And they're on the endangered species list. 7 different types of bees are on the endangered species list. So if you're wondering what you can do, you can start bee rafting and help the bees out because they really need our help. Anyway, thank you for listening to this episode, and I promise next week's will be even more exciting. And now that we got past the boring history, it's not boring. It's just different. I'm not a history buff. I don't know about you, but in order to move forward with what we know about bees, you got to learn the history. So have a great rest of your evening, and we'll see you guys next week.